Welcome to the second part video of fabric manipulation. In this video, we'll review how to create pin tucks and ruffles. If we want to add pin tucks to a garment, we can use the following method. For instance, assume we want to add a pin tuck at the front pants. First, we need to ensure that there is enough fullness along the front pattern before adding the pin tuck. To do so, we rotate half the dart on the waist to the hem of the pants. We ensure Edit Points is enabled. We click on the existing dart and select Rotate Dart in the context view. We set the target location to the hem of the pants and select the outer part of the pants to rotate. We use the gizmo and rotate the dart. Alternatively, we can type in the dart width value and try and see which value is best. We want the distribution to be as even as possible. 1.7 centimeters looks okay as the bottom dart is now 1.53 centimeters in width. We click Done. We implement the darts and delete them. We remove the corner points and mark them as notches. We only need a fullness of 1 centimeter at the top and bottom as the pin tuck width will be 1 centimeter. The waistline has 1.7 centimeters dart fullness and the hem had 1.5 centimeter dart fullness. So using the slash and spread function, we perform a slash and close on the waistline and hemline. We make sure we place the anchor on the front of the pattern to avoid that portion from shifting. We remove 0.7 centimeters from the waistline and implement spread. Then we repeat the same steps to remove 0.5 centimeters from the hem. We implement the spread. Lastly, we want to add a 1 centimeter fullness to the hip. So we select the hip point with Edit Points enabled. Then we enable Multi-Move. In the Transformation section, we move the hip point by -1 centimeter along the x-axis. Great! Now we need to add internal lines for the pin tuck. We draw an internal line snapping to the notch point on the waistline and the hem. Next, we select the internal line and do a clone by offset. We need to create 2 lines. So we clone by offset the line from the center, 0.5 centimeters along the x-axis. And we select the internal line again and do a clone by offset from the center of the line, -0.5 centimeters along the x-axis. We ensure that the new internal lines are extended to the edges. We add points to the edges for the 3 internal lines. And we convert them to corner points. We repeat the same for the hem. The middle internal line will be the folded line on the pin tuck. We select the middle line and enable the iron property in the context view. We input 90 degrees and dress so that the line is creased on the garment. Once it has creased, we stitch the right and left internal lines together. And we click Dress to see the results. Finally, we need to lower the grid size and use the focused pinch. We need to adjust the stitches along the waist to exclude the pin tuck. And we have a pin tuck. What do we do if we need to stitch down part of the pin tuck? To do so, we draw an internal line and move it 0.5 centimeters to the right. Next, we stitch the middle pin tuck line and adjust the stitches to match. And that is how we add a pin tuck to a garment in V-Stitcher. To add ruffles to a garment, we need to create the ruffle pattern and stitch it to the internal lines on the garment. For instance, if we want to add some ruffles on the skirt, we need to ensure that there are the internal lines on the skirt and the ruffles pattern. The ruffle pattern we have created is rectangular, but it could be created in a spiral manner or otherwise as required. For these ruffles, we stitch along the internal line in the middle of each pattern. We simply stitch the internal lines together. We continue stitching until all the internal lines are stitched together. We turn on Auto Lock or lock the skirt patterns before dressing the ruffles. Let's turn on Auto Lock. We ensure the ruffles patterns are added into the Arrange mode and that Use in 3D is enabled. We need to adjust the cluster wrap type to curve. We dress the garment. We need to lower the grid size of the ruffle patterns for more detail. On this pair of pants, let's add a pleated ruffle instead. We add the pleated ruffle along the leg dart and the internal line. First, we need to implement this dart. And we need to check the total measurement of the dart leg and the internal line. It is about 30 centimeters. To create the ruffle, we add a rectangle that is 2 centimeters by 30 centimeters. We want to add 6 box pleats that are 2.5 centimeters in width each. So we change the height of the rectangle to accommodate the pleats. That makes the height 65 centimeters. Next, we clone by offset the top edge by 5 centimeters and input 12 copies. We add pleats on the internal lines that are 2.5 centimeters in width. We continue to add the pleats along the edge. We make sure that we add the pleat along the same edge. We need to ensure that the pleats are in the correct fold direction. We want to ensure that a pair of pleats are folded in this manner. The top pleat should be folded upwards, and the bottom pleat should be folded downwards. We correct the fold direction of the rest of the pleats. This is only one side of the pleat. We want to clone it and flip it along the y-axis and again along the x-axis. We ensure that the pleat's fold direction are all correct. Next, we create symmetry for the other side of the pants. We stitch the two pieces together. We stitch only one side to the pant. These patterns need to be in a 3D layer higher than the pants patterns. We can change the layer to a 4. We must ensure that the patterns are added in the Arrange mode. We add them into the skirt cluster so that the patterns will be prepared flat on the front of the pants. Use the 3D gizmo to adjust the pattern and scale it accordingly. Once that is all set, we click Dress. We may require to adjust the pleat simulation using the styling tool. We can adjust the styling and the grid size as required. And this is the results of the pleated ruffles. These were only a few examples of fabric manipulation methods that can be done in VStitcher. For more information, check out our Help Center at support.brosware.com.